Hey everybody, this is Adam with the Productivity Academy. I got my big blue headphones on today and I shaved. So if you don't recognize me and you've been watching these for a little bit, this is what it looks like underneath the beard. So anyways, if you're new, please take a look at the link, productivity.academy/questions. Anytime during the week, if you've got questions about productivity, process, time management, productivity apps, you can just go there, pop in your question, and then that's what I use to answer questions during this live hangout. And then I'll also answer any questions I see when I'm live, and that's via Facebook. So you might be watching this on YouTube or somewhere else, but you can catch it live every week. And if you go to productivity.academy and sign up, you'll get notifications about upcoming webinars along with some other good stuff. All right, so if you're watching this on YouTube, just hit subscribe too, and you can get notified of when these get uploaded, as well as other things I put on there like productivity, app reviews, new methods, strategies, things like that. So, all right, let's get into it today. I've got a few questions, and these are good. I'm going to click over here. This first one, it says, every successful person says to be productive, but how do we actually become productive and also be focused and determined? So that's pretty good. I think this is an interesting question for a number of reasons. It focuses on a couple different areas, and I think it's something we've all felt or feel from time to time. All right, even if you let's say you've got that process really nailed down, you're up, you're productive, and then you have those days where it just falls apart, and you feel like you can't get anything done. You're worthless. You're not sure what to do. Or it might just be, you're looking up at all these other people who have gotten somewhere where you want to be, right? And then, like this person was probably asking, everyone says to be productive, but, what do you do? So I think that's really good. And how do we actually become productive is, for me, it's small steps and habit forming. Okay, it's not, and I'm not bagging on productivity apps because it's what helps you do these things, but it's the habits you form. Okay, it's the fact that I do a morning daily review every day at the same time that determines how well my morning goes and then how the rest of the day goes as I become productive. It's not the best self-journal that I'm using. It's not Todoist or Focuster on my phone that makes me productive. It's the habits. And then those tools just amplify that effect, which is great. And they help me do it more quickly or more easily, or they make that habit easier to form or to hold on to. Okay, and so I think that's really important to do that. So the short answer is basically that how do we actually become productive? It's by forming those habits. Okay, and it's the little things over time that add up. It's like, if your goal is to get into better shape, you're better off forming that habit of going for a walk 3 times a week, instead of saying, I'm going to run 5 miles every day of the week for the next 6 months, okay? Being realistic is part of it, but also just setting those attainable goals and then going after them, okay? And then adding on to them once you've done that. So maybe it's, okay, you know what? I can't do a morning review every morning at the same time, but between 7 and 9 a.m., I'm going to set down 15 minutes and I'm going to review my day. I'm going to look at my calendar. I'm going to check my to-do list. I'm going to update them. Okay, and then say that's a really good start for somebody who doesn't do that. And then to add on to that, maybe you add something like, I'm not going to check my emails after that morning review until 11 a.m. All right, and that's going to open up some really great productivity time in there where I can really start to block off things. And then you can go crazy, do whatever you want, But I think that's the really important part. And then the second part of the question was, how can you be focused and determined? Because to me, this is separate. You can be productive, you can, do things, all right? You can produce widgets. Okay, that's great, but how do you become focused and determined? And I think that's also along the lines of small steps. But it's having that reason behind what you're doing. Do you love your work? Are you really interested in what you're doing? Do you feel and not even just love your work, but is what you're doing moving you towards what you want to do or where you want to be? Are you providing a service that is really valuable to people? There's a lot of reasons, and part of it's figuring that out for yourself. What do you want? Not everything I do I love. I don't love some of the tasks that I have to do, but they're helping me get where I want to be. And I think that can really help you once you figure those things out. whether you see it as a means to an end or the actual task you're doing itself is really important. And I think taking a step back sometimes can help you really see this in terms of, what you're doing may seem mundane, but then, hey, is this part of a bigger whole? What am I doing? Is this part of a really neat project? Whatever it is, or, hey, this is helping me pay the bills so I have a, shelter and I have food on my plate, and that's, amazing in and of itself. There's people who don't have that. So anyways, good question like that. I think there's obviously a lot of really good ways you could tackle that, but yeah, I think in general, becoming productive, it's one of those lifelong goals, but you just start, and you start small, and you just build those habits over time. All right, next question. What are the most productive collaboration tools for the workplace? That is kind of a tough one. I'm just going to run down what my personal favorites are, and then this totally, I think, is based on what you're doing, who you collaborate with, and what your kind of personal style is. So for myself in general, what I have found to be effective are tools that allow you to share the information you need to share, but not overly time wasting, I guess. So what I mean by this is, like, a lot of people like Skype, and I'm okay with it, but I generally don't like it. I find it a little inefficient, and then it quickly just turns into like a massive reading thread. And I prefer methods where I don't have to constantly be alerted. But that depends. Slack is obviously a good one, and I like that I can really handle the notifications in a more granular fashion, so I can turn them on and off for certain channels. It's easy to set up a channel where, like, okay, this is going to be about this topic, and I want instant notifications. There's a general channel where everybody's chatting on and talking about stuff, and it may be off topic. You know what? I don't need notifications. Leave me alone, and I'll go in and check that once or twice a day. So I think that's really good. And then I know for myself, I just do, I am not a programmer. I think for people who do that, there's a lot of really neat tools out there. I'm not going to even touch on that because that's their own thing. But then maybe Trello is good too for more of a organized fashion of workflow. And you can still add questions and alert people. There's ways to do that with Trello. But it leaves out that instant communication. Back and forth, like the chats and things like that, which can be very helpful. Or if you're working maybe with VAs or people really remote who just are taking care of a task or doing a piece of it, and then there's ways to use Trello. Like you could set up a board inside of Trello where, or a list rather, where somebody can move a task onto it, and it'll alert you because that list says move here if you have technical issues or something like that. So that's kind of nice if you want to do something where you don't want to be bothered all the time. So I think a lot of it is figuring out what you need and what you prefer, and then just going from there. All right, last question for today, unless we get one pop up here. Besides Slack and Trello, that's fine. What are some other really good productivity tools? Okay, well, yeah, we just talked about Slack and Trello. I use those both a lot, but I think what's missing from that list for me is some sort of a to-do list or a task tracker. And then my top ones for that would probably be Todoist and Focuster. And depending on how you use those, I would just check them out both and see what works best for you. Focuster's got some really cool things where you can, like the name implies, you can like focus in on your tasks. So you go through, it'll auto sort them into your calendar, and then you can focus in on a task one at a time. Trello's got some interesting, Todoist has got some interesting features with teams and labels and projects and things like that. That's pretty cool. So I would check those out. I think Slack and Trello, that's really good. It's a good start. And then going in and finding something to do to organize your tasks is probably kind of completing that circle. All right, that is it. No more questions for today. So in the future, if you have any more questions, just go to productivity.academy/questions and pop them in there. And I'll answer them on here whenever whenever I can on Wednesday. So that's it for this week. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next week.